so this is something that I thought I had a kind of struggle when I was picking the topic. What should we? How should I present the crafts and digital world? But I would say I wanted to just somehow make it a bit broader, more kind of zoomed out way of thinking about what we do and what is crafts and what is digital world, because I would say the crafts and digital world is also kind of tool how we usually express our ideas, but we quite often in our work we work with the past and future that could be yeah, and we try to find this kind of symbiosis between these two kind of things, that is the past and future, and that could be in the scope of your workshop could be also called as a crafts and digital. So in several of the works that I will show you how we deal with the crafts and digital and past and the future. We sometimes we focus more on past and future, sometimes it's crafts and digital, but I would say that this is something that is very kind of related, at least for my understanding, each to another. And we also natural artificial. So this is because I mean in the past things were more natural. Now they have become much more artificial. And so I will show you several projects that we have done in past years, and because I am practicing architect, we are practicing office, and that's why our kind of theory could be, I think, the most best well explained through practical works. And so basically in today's world, in 21st century, most of our lives I would call artificial. It's because the question is how much, one second, I will just double check if I'm sharing correctly. So because the big question is, so basically nowadays the human presence and willingness to adjust, to adapt, to organize, this is something that we see everywhere in nowadays life. Because with this development of science and human understanding how the nature works, it allows people to create the environment they feel better in. So this is kind of the big question. So how much is it left nowadays? What is natural and what is artificial? Is it something that we see natural? Is it really natural, or is it human interpretation of what is natural? So this is one project that we took this manifesto, or this question of what is natural and what is artificial, and we combine these two kind of words, and we created a project that we call parametric glacier. We took we went to the most extreme thing that we would call still as a natural. We took ice, a glacier, as a kind of expression of primeval sincerity, and then we put against it parametricism. That is make it full screen. Oh, one second. One problem. Okay, I open it again. So, and then we put against this phenomena of naturalness that we call, we put against parametricism that we would say is some kind of phenomena of human of man's okay. So this is a kind of we put against the human willingness to organize things, the human willingness to order. So this is what we put these two kind of opposites together, and we try to create symbiosis of this. So Parametric Glacier, this was a project that we designed for a White Night festival that was held in Riga in Latvia, and we created this this kind of creature, this object that you can kind of, you have the feeling of something ancient, something that is kind of primitive, something that is something that is old, and then we try to combine it with algorithms, with parametric design that that can be that is kind of symbolizing this human interpretation of the things, of the nature, and human basically willingness to organize things, to put them in an order. So as you can see, that this is something that we made also from this artificial plastic material that is kind of even bringing it next step further, to talk about the materiality, that you can even fake things in because we have this knowledge and of nowadays how the things look like, how they might feel like, and that it still looks like this kind of big glacier that has been brought to the historical city center of Riga. And even we went one step further. We also created as a kind of sound installation. There was dripping water inside the pavilion, and when people would enter it, it would react to the people, and kind of cracking of ice would start. And I will try to share now one video where one second, I will just try to, let's see how it works. Okay, I hope it works. So I will show you how it looks. Okay, I hope it works. So I will say something in chat. Full screen Control L. Great, good to know. Okay, I will do that next time. And so, I hope you can see the screen. Yes. Control L, I try. Great. So actually, after this was kind of one of the project that triggered our kind of this willingness to see how we can combine this natural kind of environment with something that is made by human, and we did a series of several other projects where we try to explore how we can put something human-made in the nature and see how the nature can live together with artificially made things. And this was a series of several kind of art objects, pavilions that we did in eastern part of Latvia. That was a competition of 5 cities organized by 5 cities that wanted to kind of encourage more movement of tourists between the cities and to explore the city and also visit these projects. And one of them was, for example, the air pavilion, guys, that it was kind of interpretation, kind of reference to the tree that and in this project we used only not this kind of visual reference to tree, but we also tried to use the natural forces, the wind in this case, as also something that would make this object alive. And so here we created the largest wind chime ensemble in the world that is combined of about 300 wind chimes, and then it would create noises when and create sounds when there is stronger wind, depending on which with these wind chimes would play. And another project then not far away from this, but also using the wind kind of energy and wind movement, was Project Water, where we also used water wind movement to create kind of waves of hanging objects to create this kind of kinetic object that is not ever standing still, but is always in some kind of movement and is always kind of changing depending on how the nature is around it. But even more, so something that maybe corresponds to the topic of craftsmanship and digital age would be the next object, that is a fire pavilion. It's called Uguns. And this was actually something that brought to us to several other projects later. And this is something where we try to combine this digital and craftsmanship and past and future. So basically we took like very simple 1.5 meters long wooden beams, and we started with the help of special software to create different kind of stackings to make something that is made of natural material, but then, because we have the possibility nowadays to work with algorithms and digital software, this allowed us to create these pavilion that somehow looks kind of ancient, and at the same time it's made with a kind of futuristic approach. So we took these 1.5 meter 1.5 meter long wooden beams, and we stacked them, and we rotated each of them by 2.5 degrees. And this has allowed us to create an object that kind of refers to the fire flames visually, but also during the daytime it plays with the shadows and light and creates these effects on the floor and on side the object itself that you would sometimes see when the fire is burning. And also to continue, it was not just to make a fire pavilion that visually represents fire, but also that it kind of includes this in a very contemporary project that includes some kind of very old and I would say ancient kind of ritual in a way that to create the feeling of campfire. So basically we designed this project of these kind of 9 symbolic flames that are placed around, that are placed radially. So the people, this is the way how the people would usually sit around the campfire. And this is also the distance, how close people sit to each other and against each other. This is something that would, we thought that this would trigger the conversations between the people. So this is something that if the people stay too far away, the conversation is not so kind of necessary, or you don't feel maybe so much need to talk with the people, but when you sit so close together, you kind of naturally start to talk. So we wanted to create this place as a place for meditation, for the conversations, for the lectures, and so on. And actually this project was very simple in the deep forest of eastern part of Latvia, in the deep forest of a natural park, and at the same time it was very widely published. Somehow it became kind of viral in the internet, in the magazines, and the French Landscape Festival and Symboisis invited us to recreate this pavilion also in their landscape festival. And this is something that we usually never do. We don't make copies of our work, but we thought, okay, if we do something in Nancy, that is close to Geneva at the French Alps, for first year, then maybe next year they would invite us to make something especially made for the festival. And so we did. So we built one more fire pavilion there. Actually, also we have had other requests to build fire pavilion in other countries too, but so far we have built it only Latvia and France. And we thought that actually it's a kind of funny experiment of replicating the pavilion that was initially made, that it could almost like, we were making fun that this almost could work like a portal, that you enter this pavilion and then you would exit in Latvia forest and the vice versa. But technology is not so developed yet. We had a very nice opening of the whole festival and with the fire and so on. And what happened a year later was that our expectations came true. We were invited to create something again in 2020. So that was last summer, and this time we really wanted to bring something from Latvia, something that is not just designed by Latvians, but also it brings kind of feeling of Latvia. It brings Latvian materials there. And in the previous year, we experienced extreme heat during the construction of the fire pavilion. So we wanted to make a kind of shaded space where we could, where people could come, just stay, be part of the nature, at the same time be protected from the hot summer sun, and spend time here. So this is something I would call, we also on this project, we try to combine this past and future. That could be also something that the past is not something that is not very old, but still old. And this is some kind of, we wanted to bring to Annecy some kind of traditional Latvian craftsmanship, something that we are proud of, and but something that actually nowadays has kind of gone old and aged not in a kind of very nice way, and we wanted to bring a new push to a wicker works, because this is something actually that is dying out in Latvia, and this is because the new people are not willing to do this, so there are only old older generation masters left who know how to work with the wicker. We thought that this could be a nice push for this industry to revive, to take this kind of old traditional craftsmanship and make it contemporary, to show that this is something that can be also transformed to contemporary architecture, to a contemporary design. So we started with this, and we wanted to also for ourselves, we wanted to experiment with a grid shell structure that could be a kind of load-bearing structure for the pavilion. Usually it is kind of a square grid typology structure, but we thought that we not to repeat so many other grid shell structures that we have seen. We tried to work with triangular grid shell structure. No grid shell structures, at least, have been made in Latvia, so this was also a big challenge for us to find the right materials, the right dimensions of them. So, as you maybe have heard, so grid shell structure is something that works like a piece of paper, that it is flat and it's unstable, but once you kind of press the corners together, this is when it gets its strength. So the idea was to build this grid shell structure and then to cover with wicker baskets of one of the masters that we found in Latvia, and so we did. We brought we prepared Latvian pine tree planks in Latvia and then brought here. And the grid shell structure, basically, it is something that is usually built in a way that you lay it flat on the ground, then you build several layers of it, and to make it bendable or more kind of, so it's more flexible for adjustments, you spray it with water, and then step by step you lift it up, spray with water more, and then you fix the corners. And then once the corners are fixed, so it would stay stiff, and very strong, so the people could even walk on it. Then we covered it with 262 baskets of Petris 2 tons of the wicker work master from Latvia, and we created this kind of space of shades that were actually here in this photo. You can see the fire pavilion that is visible from the previous year. It's right in it's like 50 meters far away from the new pavilion. So we are gradually taking over the Jardins d'Europe park by a Latvian project. This year we are not doing it. We are doing something else that I will show you later. And so basically we created this shaded space where people can enter, they can be inside. It's like almost sitting under a tree, that you see the nature all around you, the air goes through it. At the same time, it creates environment where you can also stay in very hot sun. And actually, when we built this project, it was still, you could still feel the smell of Latvian wicker for a while when it was built. And so yeah, I will also show you a quick video of this project. Yeah, we share. Hope the sound works. Okay, let's continue with this. So this project was left as a permanent installation in the Iraq because usually they keep only the projects for a summer. So this is the year after how it looks like, and so but it was highly appreciated by the city, so they wanted to keep it. And yeah, and so this was in the summer. Then in winter we did another project that again we used kind of natural elements translated into kind of digital artwork. This is something we wanted to do because I think we were a bit kind of nostalgic about the wicker pavilion that would last probably like 5 years and then it would gradually die because of the wicker and very thin wood that we used in the project. So we wanted to make something that is very, very kind of long lasting, almost longer than we would. And we created project about the nature that would react on the nature, but it is made from very long-lasting materials, from metal. And it's called Project Chia-Kurs, like a pinecone pavilion. And this project we designed in a way that it would be part of the park, but it would change in the seasons. It would change during the day. So we made it from this kind of mirror stainless steel cladding that would react always on the nature when it's around. So in this way, it's this kind of sculpture that always changes. So in the daytime, when it's let's say it's cloudy, then it will be kind of a gray structure. When it's sunset, it would become yellow and would turn into kind of golden colors. And this was also a project where our client, they saw this wind chime project we did before, so they wanted to have a sound installation here as well. So you don't see them much because they disappear in the mirrors, but here actually there are many wind chimes as well, different type than in previous project, but still they are. When you enter the sculpture that actually is also a pavilion, then you would see them, you would hear them, and you would. This is where the moment where you can really kind of experience this parametricism that is something from the nature and something from the digital world. Yes, and yep, that is that. And then these are kind of the projects that we do for that would stay for the kind of long-lasting, that should stay for the longer periods of time. But we do a lot of also projects that where we combine different forms of art, the craftsmanship, the architecture, with technologies that are and these projects are short-lasting, like as short as like 1 day or 2 days projects. But and this is, for example, this series of nature concert halls that we do every year. And this is something where we can do things that we could not do in kind of more long-lasting projects, because basically this short-term project is something where we can compress all the emotions, all the stories that would be included in a long-term project for a longer period of time. But here we do it in very short compact time. So that means that those emotions and these experience of people who would see these projects, this would be much more brighter. The people would have much stronger memory just of this one night. And one of these nature concert halls that I wanted to show you is, it was in 2017, I think. And this was a project that we used very traditional material, wood. We made some kind of grid structure, and just to tell you a little bit about Nature Concert Hall. So basically, every year they pick one hero, one natural kind of element that their whole Nature Concert Hall is about. So then musicians create music about it. Then video artists make video installation about it. Scientists, they make their interpretations about the hero, and we take it and we unify all these forms of arts in the stage or the pavilion, or call it as you wish. So basically this very kind of basically the idea of this project was that here the hero was earthworm, and this what you see here, this is something what our interpretation is what you see when you pick up a stone from soil or earth that has been lying there for a long time, and then you see all these small caves where all the kind of earthworms and other insects have been living in. So we made this architectural object of traditional material, and then we applied the technology over it. So we used this platform as a huge video projection screen, and we had and this was kind of like a portal to the underground world, to the portal to the insides of Earthworm. And we had musicians that we placed in 4 floors all over the stage, and they could move between the floors. And this was also a very spectacular event, because usually you add smoke to create brighter light effects, but this time we added a little bit smoke because of some kind of weird air pressure. It all stayed very low, and with very small effort we created fog all over this meadow. And yeah, this was a sketch that I really love. This is somebody left us a small sketch of a child who drew how he saw this concert, this Nature Concert Hall, and it's very interesting, like what child sees, what we see as a kind of designers and professionals, what he sees. So this is his interpretation, how he saw the event. Obviously, you can see these are probably like light effects, and there was a big speaker probably somewhere next to him that was bothering him, and I think here was a small stream or something. So yeah, and a lot of people sitting on their blankets. And one more project that I wanted to show you that Didzis also mentioned, actually this project I can also show you. I will have a little bit of time. I can show you in a small video. Second. I had a video also of Chiekurs, but that's something that probably every time I will skip. Yes. So another project where we worked with the stage, and this was something that we tried to take something that is historical and make a kind of contemporary interpretation of it. Was Abbas Malas. This is a project that was made for centenary of Latvia in 2018, and this was a multimedia dance event that was made to kind of celebrate Latvia 100 years anniversary. And in this dance event, again, dancers, they danced through the history of Latvia. Multimedia video artists, they guided through the history of Latvia with video projections, and our task was to make a stage, a kind of platform that would unify and unify these different forms of arts and help to tell the story of emergence of Latvia. So we designed it as a shape of a flag, of Latvian flag, and we used the flag not only as a kind of element that has very strong and symbolic meaning, but also as a kind of space making tool. So we, on this one stage, we created different stages where we can play with big mass scenes of the dancers, as well as smaller spaces where more intimate scenes and dances of soloists could happen. And yes, the video artists play their role. They, for example, this one is these are letters of people who have been deported in the Soviet times outside of Latvia, and yes, and this event also was interesting for us, the way of how to build it, because usually for the stages, for the events, you have very limited time of construction. In this case, we had only 24 hours to build the stage of 2,000 square meters, and to make that, we decided that we will make it from modules that we can easily and fastly bring in the arena, and then combine them together. So there was a 2-year preparation work to design these with all kinds of different digital tools, and so basically each of those modules we designed for each of them every plank, and this, so every module is on at least 5 pages, and we had 250 modules like that we had to combine together to achieve this kind of polygonal shape that works as also not only as a place where to dance, but also as a kind of huge video projection screen of 2,000 square meters. We built it from a wooden structure that we covered with plywood, and actually this became as the largest multimedia event in Latvian history. And this is a kind of like a symbolic book that we have. This is with all the drawings, so it's like more than 1,000 pages of these module drawings. I can give you, I think, the last brief insight how it did look like. So we, yeah, so we work a lot with in this arena with all different kinds of events, and we like to make big things because there is like a lot of emotions that you can include of them. Actually, next one is going to be in 2023 when we will build our largest stage. That's going to be in Daugava Stadium in Latvia. It's for National Song and Dance Festival that will be for 50,000 dancers, but this is still upcoming. And then as a last kind of project that I wanted to show you, that I would say we combine the craftsmanship and digital knowledge very much, and we go even like to the very far away history, and we go to the very far future. It is a expo pavilion that we are doing right now for Latvia in Dubai, and this is something that is still now ongoing. It's now in containers that are being shipped to the Dubai, and it will be completed in few months. So, this is a competition of exposition that we won half year ago, I think. And Latvia doesn't have their own pavilion. This is exposition that is going to be in a rented pavilion. And in this project, we wanted to combine something that is very ancient, something that's very old, that goes much further away than a wicker pavilion, but with a similar principle that we wanted to take Latvian genetic code with material that is peat. It's maybe you know what is. Well, it's like if you don't know what it is material that is can be found in swamps, kind of turf material, and we wanted you to use it as a canvas, canvas to tell the story of Latvian future with contemporary technology. This material, this is something that basically you could say it includes all the Latvian history. It includes people. It includes plants. It includes animals. So, kind of real biological material that would that can be actually with a special technology transformed into construction material. So what how we are planning to tell the Latvian story is through 4 dimensions. So basically, the deeper person goes in the exposition, the broader the perspective view of the person would open up to, and more kind of under and more the stories of what Latvia is going to and how it will kind of grow in the future is being told. So we will have 4 dimensions that are where first dimension will be about Latvia, a place for challenges. Second dimension will be Latvia, a place for connectivity. Third dimension, Latvia, a place for experiments. And fourth dimension will be Latvia, place for discoveries. And we play a lot also with this peat material, since it is soil, so we call it Latvia soil for innovation, Latvia soil for connectivity, and so on. So we use it as a physical material, but also as a kind of we take also this abstraction of this material of the soil. And from material we have planned to create 4 rooms of 4 different architectural materials of column, wall, room, and then special places as this 4th dimension. And we will apply 4 different technologies to this ancient material to tell the story of future Latvia. So, and also it will vary how the people, depending of the material, of the elements architecture that we are using, and depending on technology, also the way how the people will experience the space will change. So first is the column, where people go around the object, Second one is the wall, where people would separate in two groups, and then the technology and story would be told through the screens and video projections on this wall. And third would be a room where we would again project with a special technology three-dimensional objects that would even feel three-dimensional when the technology will be applied to them. And fourth dimension is where we will break the kind of the boundaries, and we will put a visitor from a role of a visitor and explorer to the kind of, let's call it, himself as a kind of exhibit, because he will enter this room and he will change how this room looks like. And to go even further, we have chosen to use special technology of treating this ancient material. So basically, we take thousands of years of material, and we take these 3-axis robots that will shape our objects in parametric shapes. I'll just check what's in the chat. But anyway, or I do it after I so this is basically the end what I wanted to show you today, and there are 3 questions that that I thought could be interesting for you to discuss later. Is if we use digital production that is nowadays kind of very widely done, do we lose something of this craftsmanship? Do we lose something if it's not being produced anymore by people? You know, if there is machines that are being involved or production, if there are computers being involved in the designing things, do we lose this kind of human touch that used to be there? And then another question is, do you think is the digital is here to stay, or is it temporary fashion that is now kind of popular because it's new, and then would it evolve like this, or do you think it would eventually go back to the basics, and people would again reappreciate the importance of the human touch in the things?
Yeah, thanks, Didzis. I suppose that it was excellent story about what we are trying to speak already during this third intensive study program. So what are relations between material, digital, craftsmanship, and I think that you discovered all these necessary accents that are quite important to have the common picture that gives added value to the maybe old and well-known things, but let us see them in a new, modern, up-to-date way. So thanks, and I suppose that there will be questions. So the first question already is here.
Maybe we can give the word to Genmo so that he can state his question as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Good.
Genmo, you are unmuted now. And Didzis, you can see the question also in the question and answer section.
Ah, okay. I see.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for a very nice presentation. Actually, I have a very general question about the definition of nature, because now we're more focusing on the sustainability, how to tackle the issues about the climate change. So talking about the natural architecture, I'm wondering what is your definition of that? Or like it's very complex process, or is it some very important issues that you are more focusing on? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I mean, this natural and artificial architecture, this is something that is, I mean, we have been, I don't have a clear answer, but we have tried different approaches how to define what can be natural and what can be maybe also natural friendly and maybe not so natural friendly is we have also we have tried I mean the natural, it depends, you know, it's it depends how do you kind of approach it, because we have had a lot of situations where we try to when we try to kind of interpret nature, we try to put it something that would really well fit in the nature, and we have tried a lot of approaches where we do the opposite. We try to be sustainable. We try to be ecological by doing the opposite. That we do something that is not made of natural material. That is something being made from some metal or rented materials, because then you can reuse them. You know. So, and then, for example, the very last example is this peat material that we are thinking that after the exhibition you could just lay it out and it would just rot on itself, you know. So very different approaches could be applied to interpret what is the natural architecture. I would say one is you can try to play with materials, but then again, what do you do? Do you use natural materials, because then you are kind of partly taking something from the nature, or is it something that you take the opposite, that you use materials that can be reused, and so on. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered to your question, but
yeah. Yes, thank you very much. But I also have another question, which is related
Sure.
to nature. Sorry, because we're talking about craftsmanship in architecture or in the built environment. So, what do you think that the role of craftsmanship in the context of is natural architecture or the sustainable architecture? Yeah, thanks.
So you mean what is the role of the craftsmanship in? Can you repeat again the question?
In sustainability or natural architecture, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, again, it kind of depends, you know. There is one way of doing things by kind of in a very ecological way of using natural materials, using kind of old techniques, and that sometimes might be kind of more sustainable, more ecological. But on the other hand, there are also contemporary ways how to do things faster, maybe more efficient, and so on. But then maybe also the technique itself sometimes is not the most environmental friendly. So there is always this kind of choice of, do you choose something that is kind of low technology and kind of maybe taking more time but maybe lower impact on the end result, on the nature, or you use something that is kind of more advanced but more impact on the nature, but then more kind of possibility to make things or you use this possibility to make things faster, more kind of efficient in that way. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
So thanks. I see that Carl Gunnar would like to ask something. Carl Gunnar, can you?
Yes, Carl Gunnar, you could speak directly.
Yes, okay. Yes, thank you. And thank you so much, Didzis, for your very interesting presentation. I was thinking about the difference between art and architecture. When I listen to you, you are very much taking departure from art, but going into architecture in terms of the spaces you are creating. How do you think about that? How could your work also be a kind of exploration architecture in its more wider meaning?
Yeah, it's a good question that we have been thinking ourselves a lot too. So it's something that yeah, it's also a question: is the architecture art, or is it just a kind of, or is it a craftsmanship, or is the craftsmanship art, or is it kind of, yeah, I mean, there's a play with the words, but basically, kind of I would say my summary for this would be, if the architecture can bring kind of emotions to the people, well, the same way as, like, let's say, music would do, or painting would do. If it can create emotions in people as strong as that, then I would call it art too. And it is, I would say, every architecture should include this kind of aspect of art, because art is something, I would say, it's, if because let's say the really good architecture should be composed of these two aspects. One is very practical, and one that is something that you need for your physical needs or physical functions. The other part is this this emotional part that maybe could be art. So good architecture should combine these two things. That one is this practical, and one is this kind of, let's say, mental or psychological, and this is the art part. So we always we try to do that, and we sometimes, it depends of the project. Sometimes it more goes to this. Depends what is the level of each of these aspects. So in some projects we go more to the practical part, that there is a kind of making a shelter, making a space where to be, and sometimes it's more about art, that we kind of pull up more than practical thing becomes less important, and sometimes this emotional part, how people will experience space, comes more highlighted. So it depends for ourselves. It depends every time, like what is more kind of emphasized in every project. Is it this art aspect of how a person would, what kind of emotions he would get, or other architecture projects that we do a lot too, where more functional aspects are emphasized.
Thank you, Didzis. This is something we almost every day discuss in our education. So, and I think you put this question very in a very good way forward.
Thank you.
Your work.
Yeah, thanks. Of course, it's always a challenging question if there is any border between architecture and art, or it is both the same. So, but I see that Günther has raised the electronic hand. So, Günther, you are welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing all these beautiful pavilions and projects. I have also visited your website and kind of like had a look at several of the projects that you did not show today, but and I could see a kind of like some connection between, or steps and developments between the different approaches and pavilions that you did. And I have a very specific question, because you have shown, at least from my viewpoint, pavilions or examples where you focus on the temporary, even from the selection of material and how long they would last. Then there was this one explicit pine pavilion where you would change the material to more kind of like long-lasting material to be saved for a longer time and so on. At the same time, many of these things that you have shown today are made to be temporary in the context of art, in the context of music and so on. So for stages, stage design and so on. So I have a very specific question, also in the context of craft, in the context of art, which is highly individual and highly kind of like, it's not mass production. Usually art is exactly the opposite of that. What would be your favorite pavilion or structure that you built in the last couple of years? So from your own, so of course you're biased. So what would be the one that you like the most, and for what reason in this context of craftsmanship and art and so on?
I mean, it's I always get kind of goosebumps myself when I when I watch all these kind of videos that we always try to document of our previous work. And it's also because we quite often work with these kind of very short-lasting structures, and this is something why we always make very good photo documentation, video documentation. So we always kind of we tend to forget things, and we can still kind of I have a feeling that we can include them still for a long-lasting memories in these videos and photos, and that's for that reason. I don't know. I think for my personal taste, all the last things that we have, like younger, I mean, every previous thing is kind of my favorite. I would say from the last summer, the Vicar Pavilion. This is something that I would be. I could say that now I'm very proud of, because I think that was this was something that we did, and that combines all this kind of checkpoints. You know, that it combines the traditional craftsmanship with future kind of contemporary architecture. It brought something that is very traditional in Latvia to France. It's something that is really kind of enjoyable space in the park, and this is and then it has also this kind of fragility inside it. You know, it's once you create something something that that is very long lasting, like as a pine pavilion. This is something that you kind of it will stay for a very long time there. But then when you create something like this Vicar Pavilion that has this kind of like gentleness, the fragility inside it, that then you kind of care about it. I would say even more. That's why I would say this is the from the previous things that we have done. This is something that I kind of appreciate, and that I feel darling to me, I would say.
Thank you.
Ugus, you're muted now.
Sorry, yeah, that's a fantastic thing that each new work is a favorite work for you. So I wish let you have very many favorite works in future. Emilia, you have raised your hand.
It's me who has raised a hand, and also Bartosz, but Bartosz, if it's fine, I would just like to ask my question. I was wondering, who are we? When you're talking about all these projects, they're really fascinating. And I was wondering, how do you actually choose your contractors, or how do you find the right people to do the crafted part of the job? Where do you, how do you exchange with each other, and how does actually the symbiosis between the craft workers and the planners actually work in your case?
Yeah, I mean, by we, I mean my team, because it's not just me. We are 5 people in the office that are, each of us are working on different kind of projects, and or some are working on more long-lasting projects. We do a lot of today I showed you parks, but we do a lot of, I showed you pavilions today, but and art objects, but we are doing also parks and buildings as well. And so we is our creative team of 5 architects. But and about the construction process itself, we have one company that we have been collaborating for like 10 years, and for a short-term projects, they have built maybe like 50 projects for us, 50 stages or pavilions. And then for when we have more long-lasting projects, then we have another company though, that because they have these 2 different approaches. One company can produce very fast and can be very dynamic, very responsive, and the other one is more as a, I would call it as a traditional craftsman. Not traditional craftsman, but something that, yeah, that they have more this experience, more feeling of more long-lasting things. And, yeah, one company is called ICSI, and one is Yes We Can. So, for example, where we have to be more focused on details, and those then we would go for Yes We Can, where we would need something that would not last so long, that we use ICSI. And then, of course, we work mostly with municipalities. We almost never have a private clients, and then for construction works that were usually of traditional architecture, then the municipality would hire somebody, and then depending on how good the somebody is, it will will also define how much we have to live together with the pavilion, with the project, and be on the site. Like there was one project where we had to be inside like almost every second day because of bad craftsmanship. Sometimes it's enough that you draw everything in detail, and then the good builders can realize everything as you have wished. So,
yeah, thanks, Didzis. Of course, team is a very important issue, and you are lucky that you have a good team and a really good experience. Pedro, you are welcome.
Maybe just, sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to mention there was also Bartosz and Justina before Pedro, but there was a problem with the raise handing. And yeah, so my next question would be actually about Didzis, because we are now over time, but we are in a way already in our discussion. And if it's fine for you to stay 10 more minutes here.
Yes, first. No problem, yeah.
Okay, sure. Then maybe first to Bartosz.
Yeah, Bartosz, I'm very sorry, but I didn't notice your hand. So Bartosz, welcome.
Thank you very much. First question, very quick and technical. This structure which was weak, have you analyzed also possibility to build it without this wooden frame? What would it be possible? Just combining only these elements, weak elements together and put it when it was put together without this frame, would it work? This is first a technical question. And the second is I don't know whether it's a question or some kind of reflection you've asked in these last questions. The first one is was about this human touch, and it reminded me the book of Karel Čapek, which was titled the Factory of Absolute, or Absolute at Large, and the reflection or the plot was around the idea that people they need everything, but the last thing they need is the unlimited abundance, which they usually have when we have all this machinery and all our needs are fulfilled in a big amount of element and in just immediately. So if you are asking about this human touch, I would like to ask also whether this is the problem of the human touch, that it should be also kind of unique. You've told that you built this fireplace in Latvia in forests, in woods, and then you decided not to multiply it again. You decided only once to build it and no more. So maybe this kind of uniqueness is also the problem of this human touch, and I don't know, the craftsman thing shouldn't be repeatable. It should be like individual itself. So yeah, this is my question.
Yeah. Now, about this last question, I think this is something that we kind of did in also in this wicker pavilion, that we did something that you would normally do with the technology and repetition, but we did it with a person doing that, you know. So it's, in a way, we had these 262 wicker baskets that should normally, when there are so many, should be produced by a kind of machine, because there are so many and they're kind of repetitive. And I think that's kind of also a little bit the beauty of this project, that it's not made by a machine, you know. It's kind of repetitive, but it's made by a person. And this is something that I think also visitors always, they were kind of surprised that this kind of small work, this small kind of thing is done by people, you know, because you cannot do this with a machine, you know. That's kind of like the richness of this project too. And answering your first question about the structure, I mean, then it would, if you just make it from the wicker, it would be another structure, I think. And also this wicker, technically, it's not kind of very long-lasting material, especially when you in Sea, in the Alps, where you have snow, when you have sun and you have rain and all possible weather conditions. This is something that we didn't want to use in just as also kind of load-bearing structure. We wanted to have as load-bearing structure something that can last longer, and then use this wicker as a kind of cladding material that would bring this shadow aspect to the project. I mean, I have seen some projects. I mean, there are other ways that you could use also wicker as a structural material. Yeah, but in our case, we kind of wanted to combine these two things, you know, that we take something that is contemporary, the architectural kind of system of grid shell, and then and that would be the load bearing part, and then the cladding part is something that is traditional. But it could be maybe next step that this is something that we might even want to use in some other project in the future. That we even take this wicker and use it as structural material too. Because I always have this feeling that when you do this one project, you cannot really explore the whole thing through one project. I always have this desire to do it at least second more time, so to have this kind of satisfaction that you can really explore something and then or material or technique, and then when you get satisfaction, that you move on with another material that might appear through again some process. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Both structures were beautiful. This wooden one and this wicked one. So yeah. So this was the question. Thank you.
It is always a problem after Keynote that we have a very intensive question and answer session. And right now we have at least two more questions. So Pedro and Justina. So Pedro, will you please ask your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Really cool. Temporary architecture has been very much on the vogue in the last years, of course, famously by the Eiffel Tower. Michael Sorkin wrote a lot about this. For example, also in Helsinki, we wrote and tried to show that temporary architecture could be a solution for alternative zoning planning in Helsinki as more interventionist areas to challenge what could be done differently, also more adaptively. At the same time, you have people misusing the temporary architecture, for example, temporary which require less legislation. Swimming pools like the Ala Sea Pool in Helsinki, they are built very fast to be there for 5 years, but then become popular and then become for 15, 20 years, but then it's a profitable business. My question, my point is in regards to craftsmanship is although all this temporarity and using unique solutions for very short times of space, or short amount of time in particular spaces like you did in the stages and parks, very important to make people reflect. At the same time, they create a lot of waste and can be misused. For example, we did if you go to any fair, we did one in Doha 2 years ago. The public goes in a huge fair, the fantastic setting, people go away, and then the waste created on new materials, carpets and wood and screens, it's all gone to waste. It's a huge amount of waste. Do you feel, for example, when I saw your stage in Latvia, do you feel that pressure by doing these events, the dichotomy between we need to make something unique, crafty, but at the same time, it's going to be a lot of waste that cannot be reused. Are you trying to implement that waste on future projects, or it's still not on the drawing board?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is something that we try to. I mean, usually that is very much true. This is the biggest issue that the materials I mean, for the short-term project, this is something that there is always this question: where does it go after the project? This is something that we always ask to the client almost, or if they have some plans for reusing, or we should immediately plan to reuse it ourselves, or this is something that we have in almost every of these short-term projects. But this is something I wouldn't call an issue. This is something that's just how you plan it, you know. So because let's say we have two very opposite projects, two similar projects, but with two opposite approach. So for example, I can just quickly also share my screen just to show you. So basically, if I take this project that I showed you, this is something where we immediately planned that we will move it around because there were supposed to be several concerts, and so we would make it from the wood, and then after this project was used, so after it was built, it was rebuilt several times in other locations, and then we gave it away to one theater of Latvia that used this wood that is actually kind of still in good quality after being used several times. That they would use it for their set design. This was one approach, that you just take this material and you reuse it. There is another approach also for the nature concert hall, but that was done a few years later. The opposite approach, that it's similar approach, but very different kind of way of using material. So in this project, we used wood that is kind of natural material, but we still built the project. But for example, in this project, we took something that we took approach that we never make anything. So we just build it from rented out scaffolding structure. And this way there was no waste in this project. So there is always this question, is the scaffolding, that is kind of metal structure, is it sustainable? Because it takes a lot of energy to produce the metal. It's material that will last very long, and the waste of it would last very long. But at the same time, this is something that we can reuse many times, and then in that way be ecological. So I think these, for example, of our own experience, these two projects were kind of two opposites. One is that you take ecological material and you also kind of reuse it, and the one is you take material that is not ecological at all, but because you kind of rent it out, you don't create any waste, So yeah, that's that question.
Yeah, thanks. Justina, if you can raise electronic hand, so you can unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Didzis, for your very interesting lecture. I always like, this crossroad between architecture, art, and here it's also nature. But since we are in our workshop here, concentrating to focus on craftsmanship, I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned in your presentation, one of the pavilion, especially this wicker one, that there are some crafts that are getting to be forgotten in Latvia. And have you considered, or maybe you already did it, because on your film you showed the one old man who was doing this wickery. And I did also some workshop with the young students, also with the wickery, and they were very fascinated with doing this. And maybe it could be a kind of promoting, the craftsmanship, or maybe you have already invited young people to do it also, just to spread the knowledge. Have you ever considered, or maybe you already did it? This is the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the old man. He's the one of the most kind of he knows a lot about the wicker, and he is trying also to find the new masters that could help him with his work. But somehow, this is the problem with the wicker, that it's being considered not only as something old, but kind of also archaic, that I would call in a bad word, So this was our actually tryout, that we could try to show that this wicker can be also contemporary, that you can make contemporary things out of it, and that it's not that if you take it and use it in the right way, that you can make it also something that can be beautiful, and nowadays, they're used the right way. And but this was the only project that we did with this wicker not very long time ago. So maybe and I think we will return to this wicker technique sometime in the future again. But for now, it's because too short time has passed to judge what kind of influence it would do. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Actually, just to, I can also, but that's about another topic for us. It was actually, it's not about, there was an interesting discovery that we discovered that actually with these Wicker works, the masters who work with Wicker, they always specialize on some kind of particular way of Wicker working. Somebody does the baskets, somebody does the lamps. And actually these very simple baskets that we wanted to do, they did not know how to do initially. So the first baskets we had to make ourselves just to show what we want, because they are so used to make a basket that for us seems so complex structure, but for them it's so natural because they have been doing it for all his life. So to make something out of the box was actually quite challenging for them. At least first 10 baskets came quite long, and then they started to kind of go faster. But for them initially to make a real basket was faster than to do our weird structure that we wanted to do. So yeah, that's off the topic.
Well, dear all, thanks very much for your interest, and thanks once more, Didzis, for your excellent story and this question and answers session. So we are more than half an hour beyond the schedule, so I just believe that we don't have any more time, and Didzis should return to his stage in Graz. So
yes.
So
That's
have
true.
a very good success there. Have a very good success there, and thanks all for your interest and for your being here with us.